What's going on, everybody? Mortem here, this time bringing you a look at patch 1.2 for Tainted Grail, The Fall of Avalon. A game I have enjoyed a great deal, including its DLC that came out not all that long ago. But as the game is slowly nearing its 1-year mark, by the way, this game released in May of last year, if you'd believe it, they dropped this big 1.2 update. Now this includes everything from balance changes, some content additions and tweaks to Act 3, most notably, I would probably say, alongside some much requested quality of life features and even some smaller stuff like fixing audio things here and there and even touching up the console version of the game. After we cover that, we'll talk a little more at the end, but first up, let's talk about some of the stuff they changed balance-wise. Now, this was interesting to me primarily because of the way they approached it. It's pretty common knowledge that the game had some interesting balance quirks here and there. Where Act 1 was relatively easy, there's a huge difficulty spike as you enter Act 2, and then about halfway through Act 2, it kind of drops off a cliff as you approach the upper limit of what's possible. To combat some of that, they are throwing out some optional rebalancing here. Now, the way they approach this is twofold, but let's talk about them individually. One of the main things they did is rebalance some overperforming items, primarily by reducing their crit chance. However, what they are not doing is applying this retroactively, so to speak, and the way this update is going to work is that you will receive duplicates of the items affected in your inventory that have the balance changes, and you can choose whether or not to use those or not. And I would assume that then going forward from here, new games where you pick up those items, you'll just get the rebalanced version. So if you're already playing with a specific build, it shouldn't theoretically mess that up, and I thought that was a neat way to handle that. But that is not all. There's also then soft caps for your stats that are, once again, optional. This is a setting that will be turned on by default in the settings menu, and if you don't want to deal with it and just keep it the way it has been, you can go in and turn it off. Basically, though, the important soft cap levels are 20 and 40. From 1 to 20, you get the full benefit of increasing a stat. From 21 to 40, you get about half of the normal bonus. Anything past 40, you're taking about a 75% reduction. If you're pouring a lot into those points, you can still get some useful increases going above 40, but for the most part, that soft cap is going to encourage people, of course, to spread their points around a bit, and then it's optional if you want to deal with it at all. And then last, when it comes to balancing, are the changes to mana shield. Now, from what I can tell, this is blanket. This is not an optional thing. This is actually just something they are changing fully. If you don't know what I'm talking about, mana shield in this game allows you to cause damage you take to hit your mana bar instead of your actual health straight away. If you spec fully into mana and mana regen, you could make yourself functionally invincible, and so they wanted to sort of remove that a little bit. So now, when you get hit while mana shield is active, there's a delay before your mana starts regenerating immediately. And if that wasn't enough, mana shield actually reduces your mana regeneration as well, just across the board when you have it active. So that should, I would say, pretty effectively keep people from being invincible that way. Still a few more things to cover, however. Mostly in Act 3, though. So, Act 3 got some big changes, but I probably wouldn't consider any of them like sweeping overhauls or anything. For starters, there is a new cave that has been added near one of the gates called Ether Bloom. They've also added 2 mini-bosses just walking around, Sleepwalker, as well as Karen Guards. There's a few more things to do there and explore and see, but what was especially interesting to me, though, is that they changed some of the art and level design, as they called it, which seems to refer to the fact that they sort of tweaked and redone some of the terrain and opened up new paths and stuff, which I thought was kind of interesting given how tricky some areas of it could be to traverse, which is what I would imagine they were touching up there. Now, in addition to all that stuff, you can also access a bunch of new items across all those changes. They took a look at the loot near the border area to Kuanacht, I would assume. They also redid one of the bandit camps, and what's more, it looks like they redistributed how enemies are placed and put around across seemingly the entire zone. And those two things combined, I would say, are the really big changes, but there is some other stuff to go over here as well, namely involving a brand new quest that was added to Act 3 as well, allowing you to deal with a severely disfigured man that you can find in an abandoned house now. It's also going to be possible to pick up Alyssa's Seacoast Manor and turn it into a customizable home. They've changed the reward for the Left Behind and the Shattered Pride quest, and they've added an NPC to Remor's Cave. And then on to the miscellaneous stuff. So one of the changes I appreciate the most about this is actually that your character save files are just that. They're divided up by character now, so rather than just one big old list, you can swap between characters and have them just sort of organized and laid out for you a little more, I would say naturally, I guess. And then this last thing isn't something I can personally verify, but sounds good, I guess, and that is that on PlayStation, they apparently fixed a problem with saving failed issues that could pop up and prevent you from playing further on like really late game saves, and then on consoles across the board, they added some 40 FPS mode that should theoretically make it run a little smoother for you, but I suppose I'll have to leave that to the console people to judge the efficacy of. Putting all of that together, though, I would say patch 1.2 is a pretty sizable update. I wasn't really expecting one at this point, to be honest. And given the timing, I do sort of have to wonder then if they have anything planned for the 1-year anniversary of this game, like anything else they're planning on putting out, because while I personally would be up for a second DLC, the thing I would want them to drop like a big expansion DLC for is something I might think that they would want to maybe save for like the next game if they wanted to do that. And that would, of course, seeing whatever state Camelot would be left in. Now, I think there's a variety of reasons they wouldn't necessarily want to do that, but if we're talking like wish list stuff, that is kind of what I was hoping to see from them. But I could definitely see the wisdom in just like, trying to do something that big in another release altogether. Especially if Questline, the developer, can take what they learned from this game and of course apply that to a sequel and hopefully improve on some of the stuff, as, like Tainted Grail or not, it was definitely rough around the edges upon release, which is all, I suppose, to simply say that I hope they wind up doing more with this. I really enjoyed Tainted Grail. We'll see what happens for their 1-year anniversary. I'll probably make another video around that time going over all of the changes, etc., if they have any future plans, that kind of thing. But for the time being, this was a cool little update to see, and I simply wanted to share that with people. With everything else going on in March, I'd be curious to see how many people are enjoying Tainted Grail still, and if you are, certainly feel free to tell me about it down in the comment section below, which of course means to like, comment, subscribe, all that YouTube jazz. But regardless of any of that, truly, just thank you so much for watching. I really do appreciate it. May you wander in wisdom and have an amazing day.